So, somebody give me one of their ideas.
Paint hardness.
What's that?
Paint hardness.
Okay. So, paint hardness is definitely one of the variables that impacts the result. But I'm going to take your answer and expand it to include other things besides paint hardness. So we'll just call it paint. And in that, the paint condition, the severity of the defects, paint hardness, paint softness, paint wetness, paint dryness, paint thickness, all that stuff. So anything that has to do with the paint, that is definitely one of the more important variables. How about somebody else?
Type of polish, like is it diminishing, is it really coarse, is it fine?
Perfect. Yeah, you change the liquid and it impacts the result. So we'll call that liquid or compound, or how about another one?
Pressure.
Oh, both of those I'm going to put in the same bucket. So technique is the broader term. Within that, remember yesterday we went over the different parts of technique? So technique is definitely one of them, but we're going to include downward pressure, pad angle, tool speed, arm speed, application area, all that stuff is in the technique. That probably knocked off a few on your list, didn't it? Yes, sir.
Your pad.
Perfect, yeah. The pad is actually the item that makes the most contact with the paint. So it has a big impact. You change from a wool pad to a foam pad, and boom, you have a different result. We're almost halfway there.
Would you include the cleanliness of the pad in that, or would that be another one?
Everything about the pad, yeah.
Yeah, its current condition. Is it falling apart? Is it brand new?
Tool and machine.
Thank you. You're in this building and you better get that one.
Only took them 5 to get there.
Yeah, so you switch from rotary to random orbital, it's going to change the result. Perfect. Any others?
Machine speed.
The tool speeds and the technique.
Lighting, you can see more or less.
Excellent. So I'm going to take your answer and expand it to include anything in the environment. So your lighting, your ambient temperature, your humidity, is the wind blowing, dust blowing on your car. Everything around you as you're working on the car does have an impact. So we'll call that environment. Some of them are so obvious that you don't even think of it.
Is it like the user?
Perfect, yeah. So what about you, the person? So everything about you, so we're gonna call that your physical condition, your mental state, you know, if you're hungover from the night before.
Awkward.
It also includes things like your attitude and your passion in the job. Because think of the scenario in the professional world, an employee who is detailing cars but they hate working on cars, they just need a job. Compare that to the results produced by somebody who's really excited about getting a good shine and getting a good result. So that is a variable that impacts how the car comes out.
Like the experience, right?
Yeah, so your skill set, your knowledge, your experience, your
How much you care?
everything, it's all wrapped up. You do have an impact on that result for sure.
So
Yes,
the
sir.
level of, oh, sorry.
What about like the shape of the panel?
Ah.
Like where
Thank you.
bunch.
That's one that most groups don't get. So the body shape and substrate. So the material actually. So if you're polishing on ferrous metal compared to aluminum, compared to fiberglass, compared to composite, you're going to get a different polishing cycle. You know, the flash time and all that stuff is impacted by what's underneath the paint.
If it's flat, if it's curved, if it's...
Exactly, if it's curved, yeah, so substrate, a big one, yeah, thank you. That, a lot of people don't get that. You had
The
a
level
different...
of correction you're shooting for.
Ah,
expectation.
so, perfect. And we're going to put that into a bigger category called time and expectations. So imagine the scenario, the expectation is show car finish, but you have 1 hour to do it. Is that going to impact the result? Sure. I mean, that's an extreme example, but the amount of time and the expectations on the job does impact the result. Towel scratching?
If your final wipe off impacts your result by taking it backwards.
So you have a really
That I
That's
would
part of the application of the,
compound polish or it would even
environment.
environment, it's something that's affecting, it's external.
yeah, I would put it here just because in the,
You can't do this without wiping it off, so it's part of
Yeah.
that. The one I didn't think they were gonna get is the one.
most people don't get it.
Yeah.
What letter does it start with?
Hangman.
Phone a friend.
Can we have a clue?
Yeah. Think about the sanding process and all the things we talked about and how
The severity of the paint?
the different things that go into affecting that process. And you've already named some of them. So take that same thought process and apply it to polishing.
Think of things that you can
So
change.
you've got
SWA?
the guy, you've got,
SWA is in here because it's a method of applying something.
you got the guy holding the machine, the machine,
And the pad
and the pad,
goes to the machine.
and
Back and forth.
Hey, there we go. Woo! Wow, you guys got all 10. This is the second time this has happened. The other group was in Sweden. That's awesome.
I guess you
I
think
love this.
backing plate goes with machine.
But you
Well,
can
but-
change it.
But you can take a backing plate off and change it. So especially with rotary, there's hard, thin backing plates, there's thick, soft ones. And by changing that, you will completely change the result on the
Or you're
paint.
even manipulating the backing plate by, like I was saying, with the sanding, you're introducing that interface pad to change the dynamic of the backing plate. It's still essentially all the backing plate, right? It's just multi-layers of the same thing.
Congratulations, I'm proud of you guys. I'm excited that you guys. Yay!
Some guy on YouTube isn't gonna be
I think
impressed.
I got 4.
So the purpose of doing this is to kind of open your mind and realize that there's a lot going on. I mean,
And you have no control.
and we don't want to overcomplicate it, but just realize there's a lot going on. And what I've observed over and over and over, and Dylan has too, is when you get into trouble as you're polishing paint and you get a result that you either don't like, didn't expect, don't want, whatever, let's say it's a negative result, what does everybody automatically think?
Stop.
Blame the products.
No, we blame
Always the product's fault.
the compound sucks. The pad is terrible. The tool didn't do what it's supposed to do.
This thing doesn't cut at all.
Or sometimes we blame ourselves. We're like, oh, I must have done something wrong.
I suck.
But the reality is that it could have been any one of these variables that jacked you up. Right? So it's important to go through this exercise. I actually created this out of frustration because when I worked at McGuire's, the compound was always the first thing people blamed when they didn't get the right result. It was like, your compound's terrible. I'm like, wait a minute, there could have been something else going on. So, but this is was this useful for you guys to go through? Yeah, just kind of opens your mind to the possibilities of what's really going on. Cool.
All right.
Because what happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, foot to the floor.